Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
You believe victory is a single, magnificent event, a flash of lightning that illuminates the landscape of your life in a single, heroic moment. You chase the grand gesture, the sudden triumph, the singular achievement that will make the world gasp and anoint you as a champion. This craving is a lie whispered by a world obsessed with highlight reels and grand narratives. It is a poison that blinds you to the brutal, unromantic truth of how empires are built. You look to the mountain's peak and imagine a single, breathtaking leap to the summit, never considering the 1,000 quiet steps it takes to reach even the base camp. This delusion, this constant hunger for the epic win, is the most profound weakness of all. It breeds impatience, it makes you vulnerable to shortcuts, and it renders you utterly unprepared for the crushing weight of the real work. You are a fool chasing a ghost, while the world belongs to the disciplined few who have learned to walk in the dark. They see the spectacular, they see the headline, they see the result of 1,000 unseen battles and call it luck, call it a fluke, call it a gift from the heavens. But you must see the terrifying, unglamorous process. The true power is not found in the final dramatic act, but in the quiet, brutal, and untelevised discipline of the day to day. The first victory is a decision to wake before the world stirs. The second is to face a task you despise. The third is to keep going when your mind screams for surrender. These are not triumphs that will be recorded in a history book. They are silent acts of warfare waged against the most formidable enemy you will ever face, yourself. Every single choice, no matter how small, becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. Do not seek the grand monument. Seek the single, unyielding brick. The monument is simply the sum of 1,000,000 bricks laid with unwavering focus and a chilling disregard for the applause. The man who craves a single, transformative moment is a man who is terrified of the process. He is crippled by the scale of his ambition, paralyzed by the seeming impossibility of his goals. He believes the chasm between his current self and his future self can only be crossed with a single, miraculous leap. This is a profound misunderstanding of how the universe works. The universe rewards the relentless, not the reckless. It gives its bounty not to the dreamer, but to the builder. The path to your ultimate success is not a broad highway, but 1,000 invisible footpaths carved one step at a time, each step a testament to your unshakable will. Your strength is not a sudden epiphany, it is the inevitable outcome of 1,000 small, deliberate choices. This is the truth that separates the conqueror from the dreamer. Every small win is a hammer blow that shatters the chains of your past. Every tiny victory is a nail in the coffin of your self-doubt. When you complete a task you did not want to start, when you keep a promise you made only to yourself, when you choose the difficult path over the easy one, you are not just getting something done. You are forging a new neurological pathway. You are teaching your mind that you are trustworthy, that your will is a force to be reckoned with, that your word to yourself is a sacred contract. This quiet, unobserved process is the most powerful psychological warfare you can ever engage in. You are rebuilding your identity, brick by excruciating brick, in the dark. By the time the world sees your final, formidable form, it will have no idea that the foundation of your power was laid in 1,000 quiet, private battles. The momentum you seek is not a gift from the heavens, but a force you must create with your own relentless, methodical effort. A single victory is like a pebble dropped in a pond. It creates a small ripple that quickly fades. But 1,000 small victories, 1,000 pebbles dropped in a constant, unwavering rhythm, create a tidal wave that will wash away any obstacle in its path. This is the chilling, terrifying truth of compound growth. The man who celebrates his single, flashy win is a fool who has already spent his victory. The man who quietly accumulates 1,000 small victories day after day is building a force that is destined to become unstoppable. His momentum is an invisible engine, gathering speed in the dark, and by the time you realize its power, you will already be in its path. The men who are destined for greatness are not defined by the size of their victories, but by the regularity of their effort. They understand that a small act of discipline, repeated 1,000,000 times, is more powerful than a single act of heroic brilliance. They are the architects of their own destiny, building their lives not with blueprints of grand ambitions, but with the simple, brutal act of showing up every single day and doing the work. They do not wait for inspiration, they create it. They do not wait for motivation, they become it. They find a grim, chilling satisfaction in the monotony of 1,000 small victories, for they know each one is another nail in the coffin of their limitations. They are not chasing success, they are simply building themselves into a person whose success can no longer escape. Your enemy is not the obstacle in front of you. It is the belief that the obstacle is too large to overcome in a single attempt. You have been taught to see the mountain and despair, rather than to see the first step and begin the climb. The secret of the journey is that every step, no matter how small, is a decisive victory. It is a moment of action that denies the comfortable lie of your own inaction. The destination is merely the natural, inevitable byproduct of a life lived one disciplined step at a time. Do not look to the horizon with despair. Look to your feet with cold, unyielding resolve. The path to your greatest triumph is not a single, grand leap, but 1,000 quiet, unrecorded victories won in the silence of your own mind. A man who lives for the big win is a man who lives a life of quiet desperation punctuated by moments of fleeting triumph. His existence is a pendulum, swinging between the high of a single victory and the low of 1,000 unfulfilled days. He is constantly seeking the next thrill, the next validation, the next big thing that will make him feel worthy. This is not a life of purpose, it is a life of addiction. But the man who understands the power of 1,000 small victories lives a life of unwavering forward motion. His trajectory is a slow, relentless ascent. His power is a quiet, unshakable truth that does not need a cheering crowd to be real. He does not need to feel worthy because his worth is being built with every single choice he makes. He is a monument to a life of quiet, methodical discipline. The world will not celebrate your 1,000 small victories. They will not applaud you for doing the work no one sees. But you are not doing this for them. You are doing this for the man you are becoming. The person who will stand on the mountaintop will not be the one who looked for a shortcut. It will be the one who embraced the pain of every single step. Your final victory will not feel like a sudden surprise, but a quiet, inevitable conclusion. It will be the natural byproduct of a life lived with a relentless, terrifying focus on the small, daily wins that others consider to be irrelevant. You will have built a foundation so unshakable and a momentum so unstoppable that the final outcome will feel like a mere formality. They chase the spectacular, the immediate, a monument of a month that will stand as irrefutable proof of their worth. They pour every ounce of their energy into a single, frantic sprint, convinced that a life of greatness can be forged in a matter of weeks. They believe they can climb the mountain in a single, heroic day, ignoring the chilling, unyielding truth of its scale. This delusion is a curse, a self-inflicted wound that poisons their ambition from the start. They overestimate what they can do in a month because their ego craves a quick victory, a loud, undeniable triumph that can be posted, announced, and celebrated. But the universe is not a theater for their impatience. It is a slow, methodical machine that rewards a different kind of effort, a kind of labor that they are tragically unprepared for. Their greatest ambition becomes a shallow, useless gesture, a fire that burns bright for a moment before it consumes itself. They are a prisoner of their own impatience, a fool fighting a battle he was never meant to win. The tragedy is that the very power they seek is being built all around them in silence, in the unlit corners of their lives where they refuse to look. The true force that moves mountains and builds empires is not a sudden, dramatic event, but a chilling, unyielding law of mathematics. A single % of progress daily, an infinitesimal, almost unnoticeable improvement, compounds into a force that is nothing short of terrifying. A man who gets just 1% better at his craft, his discipline, his purpose every day will be 37 times more effective, more powerful, more capable in 12 months. This is not some whispered secret of the universe. It is the cold, hard, unassailable logic of a calculator. This is the truth that separates the conqueror from the dreamer. The man who understands this principle knows that the real battle is not for a single, grand victory, but for the quiet, unrelenting consistency of his daily efforts. He is not building for a month, he is building for a lifetime. The most profound tragedy is that most men never let the compounding work. They begin with a burst of frantic energy, a flash of motivation that is meant to last forever. They work with a feverish intensity for days, for weeks, convinced that their single, heroic effort will be enough. But the results they crave do not appear on their timeline. The curve of exponential growth is a cruel, unforgiving line in the early days. It barely moves. It seems to promise nothing for all their effort. And in this moment of disillusionment, they quit. They tell themselves that the system is broken, that the advice was a lie, that their effort was in vain. They abandon the very process that was about to turn their meager efforts into an unstoppable force. They get to the foot of the hill and turn back, never knowing that the momentum they so desperately craved was only a few more steps away. They sacrifice a lifetime of compounding returns for the fleeting relief of a single day's surrender. Their impatience is a self-inflicted wound, a psychological shackle that prevents them from ever achieving anything of substance. They are addicted to the immediate payout, the dopamine hit of a quick win. But the universe only pays in installments of relentless, untelevised effort. They do not have the patience for the quiet, unglamorous grind, the brutal monotony that is the true source of all power. They want to be a legend overnight, but the legend is forged in the forge of 1,000 quiet, unrecorded moments of discipline. They do not understand that the real work is an act of faith, a brutal and unwavering commitment to a process whose rewards are not immediately visible. This is a game of endurance, not of speed, and they have lost before they have even begun to understand the rules. This is the ultimate truth of all genuine transformation. The man who builds a physique does not do it in a week. He does it with 1,000 quiet, daily victories of diet and exercise. The man who masters an instrument does not do it in a month. He does it with 1,000 hours of tedious, uninspired practice. The man who builds an empire does not do it in a year. He does it with 1,000 relentless, daily acts of discipline and strategy. The most profound and lasting changes are not a matter of sudden, heroic leaps. They are a matter of chilling, inevitable arithmetic. The man who understands this has unlocked the most powerful secret in the universe. He does not fear the slow, tedious grind, for he knows that with every passing day, his efforts are compounding into a force that is destined to become unstoppable. They tragically underestimate what they can do in a year because they cannot see the monumental force of a single %. A single page written daily becomes a book in a year. A single dollar saved daily becomes a fortune. A single disciplined choice daily becomes an unshakable character. This is the magic of the invisible. It is a power that operates in the silent, unlit corners of their lives where they refuse to look. The things that matter most, confidence, wisdom, resilience, integrity, are not built in a month. They are a product of a relentless, year-long commitment to a process that appears, to the uninitiated, to be laughably small, but in this smallness lies a terrifying, unassailable power. This is the truth that separates those who dream from those who do. The tragedy of the quitters is that they were never truly committed to the outcome. They were only committed to a feeling. They wanted to feel like they were making progress, to feel the rush of a quick win, to feel the validation of a visible result. The moment that feeling faded, so did their ambition. They did not have the conviction to continue in the absence of a reward. They did not have the faith to continue when the curve seemed flat. They were not committed to the brutal, unglamorous process of becoming. But the man who understands the truth knows that the reward is not in the outcome. The reward is in the discipline itself. The act of showing up, of doing the work, of making the deposit in the invisible ledger. That is the victory. That is the source of his power. The very concept of a timeline is a tool of the fool. The man who sets an artificial deadline for monumental change is setting himself up for a spectacular, predictable failure. He is putting his ambition in a straitjacket, restricting his potential to the confines of an unrealistic expectation. But the man who understands the truth does not set a deadline for his growth. He sets a daily ritual. He does not ask, "When will I be great?" He asks, "What is the single thing I can do today to get 1% better?" And in this relentless, daily focus, he becomes a force of nature. He does not wait for a single heroic leap. He simply begins the climb. And with every passing day, he is building a momentum that will carry him to a summit that the impatient can only dream of. They cannot see the truth because their egos are too loud. Their frantic need for a quick victory, their desperate hunger for a public display of their importance, blinds them to the quiet, unyielding power of a single percent. They are so consumed with the idea of being a hero that they have forgotten how to be a builder. They are so obsessed with the final result that they have lost the ability to appreciate the sacred, unglamorous nature of the process. They will live a life of shattered expectations, of failed attempts, of endless beginnings and tragic endings, all because they refuse to embrace the simple, brutal and undeniable truth of compounding. They crave the grand gesture, the heroic leap, a single, definitive act that will rewrite their life in an instant. They wait for a lightning bolt of inspiration, for a moment of cosmic revelation that will propel them from mediocrity to greatness without the agonizing, monotonous work in between. But they are blind to the chilling, terrifying truth that governs all things of substance. Your subconscious mind is a silent, unblinking accountant, a meticulous scribe that records every single choice you make, whether you are aware of it or not. It is a ledger with no erasures, a book that tallies every act of discipline and every act of self-betrayal with a ruthless, unforgiving precision. The life you are building is not defined by the one-time heroics you dream of, but by the quiet, daily deposits you make in this invisible bank. This ledger is the true measure of your character, a profound and unassailable record of who you really are when no one is watching. One skipped workout is not an isolated event. It is a message delivered directly to the core of your being, a silent whisper that says, "My promises to myself are negotiable." Your subconscious, with its brutal, non-judgmental logic, logs this as a withdrawal from your account of self-trust. It begins to learn that when the time comes for a difficult choice, the easier path is the one you will take. This is the beginning of the corrosion, a quiet, insidious rot that undermines your confidence from the inside out. It is the slow, imperceptible erosion of your willpower, a subtle psychological sabotage that makes every future challenge feel just a little bit harder to overcome. This is how the spirit softens, not with a sudden fracture, but with 1,000 small compromises. The damage is done not by a grand failure, but by the quiet, unrecorded act of surrender, a choice that you think no one will ever know about, but that your own mind will never ever forget. Conversely, one completed rep is not just a unit of physical effort. It is a profound, unambiguous affirmation delivered straight to your soul. It is a loud, resounding message that says, "I am a man of my word. I will do what I say I will do, even when it is difficult." Your subconscious logs this as a massive deposit, a non-negotiable proof of your integrity. Over time, these micro-deposits accumulate into an unassailable mountain of confidence. This is not the loud, boastful confidence of the insecure. This is the quiet, terrifying certainty of a man who knows, with every fiber of his being, that he can rely on himself. This is the power that does not need to be announced. It is felt. It is the difference between a man who talks about victory and a man who is already living it. It is the single most important currency in the universe, and it is earned not with a spectacular gesture, but with the brutal, unromantic grind of consistent action. The visible world is a theater of shadows, a grand illusion where reputation and reality are constantly at war. But the invisible ledger you balance daily is a record of pure, unadulterated truth. It does not care about your social media presence, your public accolades, or the opinion of a single person on this earth. It only cares about the unyielding fact of your choices. The world may see a man who is destined for greatness, but your ledger knows if he is building a sandcastle or a fortress. It knows if his progress is a fleeting performance or a quiet, methodical accumulation of power. The world can be fooled by a magnificent signal, a grand, empty gesture of false power, but your subconscious ledger cannot be deceived. It knows the difference between the roar of the crowd and the silent, grinding work of a man who is truly becoming. And in the final reckoning, only one of those records will matter. This ledger is not merely a record of what you did, but of how you did it. It logs the quality of your effort, the depth of your focus, the resolve you applied to a task when your mind screamed for surrender. It understands the difference between a rushed project and a master's craft. This is why a man with all the advantages can crumble so easily. His public ledger is full of hollow victories, but his invisible ledger is a wasteland of compromises, a desert of half-hearted effort. The man who appears to have nothing can possess an unshakable inner power, a quiet fortune built from 1,000 unseen acts of courage. This silent accumulation of integrity is the only foundation that can withstand the storms of a truly ambitious life. It is the secret weapon of those who succeed, the truth that they live by while others are distracted by the noise. The accumulation of these deposits creates a psychological momentum, a feeling of unstoppable force that does not rely on external validation. It is a self-sustaining engine fueled by a deep-seated belief in your own capacity for greatness. This is the secret of those who seem to move with an effortless grace. They are not waiting for inspiration. They are moved by an internal force of their own making, a tsunami of will created by the sheer volume of their past integrity. The corrosion, in turn, creates a psychological drag, a sense of being mired in sand, a constant self-sabotage that comes from a deep-seated distrust of oneself. They are like a car with a handbrake on, their every step a struggle against a force of their own creation. The ledger you balance daily does not just record your actions, it builds your destiny. Consider the myth of the overnight success. They are a lie, a cruel and heartless deception that preys on the desperate and the impatient. The heroic leap you see, the sudden meteoric rise, is simply the final, visible manifestation of a ledger that has been balanced in the black for a decade. The so-called leap is not a miracle. It is a point of no return, a launch into the stratosphere of a force that has been gathering its momentum in the shadows. The world only sees the result. It does not see the 1,000 early mornings, the nights spent in quiet labor, the painful rejections, the relentless grind that forged the foundation of that final, spectacular act. To believe in the heroic leap is to condemn yourself to a life of waiting for a miracle that will never come, while ignoring the sacred, unglamorous work that will make you a force of nature.